What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful day today. Perfect temperature. Just a day of well-being. That's what it makes you feel like. Tea. Delicious. That's Lipton tea. Anyway, went out, picked up a pack of gum. So Bazooka original bubble gum. This was a big deal when I was a kid, but now it's in a different packaging. When I was a kid, each piece was sold individually, and I don't know what they were. Mama's boy going to the basement. Each piece was wrapped individually, and I think they were 3 cents or something, like really cheap, 3 cents, 2 cents, and you'd buy like a little bag of these things. And of course they had the comic inside, Bazooka Joe, and it was a little comic. And at the bottom it had an offer. You could buy a t-shirt, I think it was, for like $9.95 or $19.95. Might have been $9.95 because it was the old days. And I always wanted to get one. And I had enough comics. You had to collect a certain amount of comics, and then you'd send a check. But I don't know, it wasn't expensive. I just thought the check part was the hassle. Although I did have a neighbor. Now, I could have gone to my father and said, here's $10, write me a check, I want to buy something. But then he would find that ridiculous. He would be like, what do you want? And he'd say, keep the money. So, plus, I wanted to do it secretly. I wanted to order these things secretly. So, other times I would go to this old neighbor of mine, and I would say, I want to get, like, for example, Charles Atlas. Was I, a little kid back then, I went and bought a comic book. And I bought it because I wanted to order something. I wanted to get the Charles Atlas workout course back then. So went into the middle of the comic book, and I wrote a little letter, folded it up, envelope, and I mailed it. We had a mailbox about a half a block from my house, and I'd run up there in slow motion like the $6 Million Man and mailed it. I don't know, about 10 days later I got something in the mail from Charles Atlas. I was very excited. Opened it up, had the course offer, but it was expensive. I didn't have the money, so I put it aside. And time went by like it usually does, and he sent me another offer. Anyway, he sent me a few offers, and within a 6-month period or whatever it was, it went down to $10. Said $10 final offer, good deal and all that. And I said, yeah, that is a good deal, because I happen to have $10 in the middle of my dictionary. I had a dictionary, and I would keep my secret money in there. And so I went down to the neighbor, and I said, can you write me a check, Charles Atlas Corporation, or whatever it was, Inc., for $10. I gave him the $10. He gave me the check. I mailed it away. And a few weeks later, this big manila envelope came to my house with my name on it. And I went down, and back then we had a very reliable mailman. Every day, 11 o'clock, he was there. Every day, 11 o'clock. So anyway, I get home. I happened to be home that day. I think it was like a Saturday. And I went down, because I could hear the slapping of the slot where the mail goes through. I heard that. So I went down, and I see this big envelope. So I go, hope that's for me. I love getting things in the mail. Anyway, I went to my room, had my name on it. I opened it up, and it was a Charles Atlas course, the whole thing. So after studying it carefully, I went up to my attic, privacy, and I did the workout, and I did it for a period of time. You know, I'd go up there and do the dynamic tension thing, and I was a big fan of Charles Atlas. So anyway, those were those days. Now, I didn't really buy comic books back in those days, but for those little ads in the back for the Charles Atlas thing, you know, I was fascinated with that. A little cool ad. And then I saw that Charles Atlas had the Charles Atlas vitamins. It was a brown bottle, had the Charles Atlas pose, you know, whatever. And there were these brown vitamins, like good size vitamins. And I thought these were extra special. These were even better than the Flintstones vitamins. So I got it the first time and the second time, and I noticed now he was sending them on his own. Like the company was, you know, not even asking me, just sending them and then billing me. And I said, I got to stop this because I don't have the money every month to keep paying for this. So after the third time, I wrote a letter and I said, can you stop sending me vitamins? I mailed and they stopped. They stopped sending me the vitamins. But, you know, it's a good gimmick. Charles Atlas with the vitamins there. I don't think they still have that stuff. But that's how I was introduced to exercising. Charles Atlas. Anyway, these were the comics that you had to collect. Right here. You had to collect a certain amount of these. I don't know, it's 50 of them, 100 of them, I don't know. And you'd send 100 of these or 50 or whatever the number was. I'm not sure right now. And you'd put them in the envelope with a check for either $19.95 or $9.95, and you'd get a Bazooka Joe t-shirt, which I think it was just Bazooka Joe's head. I don't know if I have a little one here. Yeah, I think it's down at the bottom here. That thing. And now I want to get one, but now they don't have the offer. They have Fortune. The Fortune on this one says you may want to consider becoming a professional gum chewer. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Every dog has its day is another Fortune. I don't know why that's a Fortune. If you become a tree surgeon, you'll wind up out on a limb. Never underestimate the power of sleep. Why is that a Fortune? Don't sweat the small stuff. And this one says, I have absolutely no idea. That's what it says. So, yeah, and you know, it's good tasting gum. Good tasting gum, but problem is, it has a short life. Short life in terms of flavor. I don't know, it's like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, you gotta put another piece in. But my favorite gum was the Chinese Fortune gum. It was, oh, here come a ton of crows now. They're released, I don't know where these things hide all day, and then they come out around now, and the whole neighborhood has crows flying around. It's like some haunted movie. Yeah, the other day I was driving in that direction, and they were all over the place. I hear they come out for insects this time of day, this time of night, or evening. It's not really night, but... So anyway, that was my thing about where I would get the checks from. And like I said, my father would be like, you know, and then you couldn't ask him again, because if he paid for it himself, you know, like if you went up there and you said, yeah, can I have a check, here's $10, I want to get something, he'd be like, all right, I got it. You couldn't keep going. You know, but if it was the neighbor didn't care how many times you went. If you gave him the money, he didn't care. If I gave him, you know, $10 50 times, he'd be okay with it, other than the fact that he'd run out of checks. But my father would be like, what do you need? What are you getting again? You know? Look at these crows. So, but I had him as a backup, the neighbor down the street. Wow, there's like tons of them now. They'll crap on you. Fly overhead, they'll land one right on your forehead or top of your head. So I will probably later on look up on a website to see if I can get a t-shirt from the Bazooka bubblegum people. Like these. So I have something else here. The Golden Age Volume 1. Right there. Superman. Tell you. And these crows are very intelligent. They have good face recognition. They recognize people. So if you treat them badly, they keep a grudge. And wow, now there's a lot. It's like snowflakes with it's crazy. So they will keep a grudge and pass it on to the next generation. Somehow they have the ability to tell their offsprings, stay away from that guy. He's bad news, you know. And I don't know how they communicate this, but they do. And the babies, when they get older, stay away from you. But I was watching a video of a crow. There was a thing of water, a jar of water, but it was too low. It's like a story I read when I was in first, second grade. And he couldn't get the water out with his beak. So they had pebbles lying close by, and the crow went one by one, added the pebbles to the water until the water level was up here somewhere, and then started drinking it. That's very intelligent for a brain that's the size of a peanut. I have no issue with them, so they don't bother me. But I will say, many years ago, when I was in my prime, I was in front of my house, and I saw a black cat coming towards me. Really beautiful cat, looked like a muscular panther, but miniature size. And it came right up to me, no fears, so I picked it up. And as I picked it up, I noticed that it had a gash, a big cut underneath its armpit. And you could look inside the body. It was like a huge opening. It wasn't bleeding, but something, you know, cut him, raccoon or whatever, but it had a big opening, good size opening. You could see into the body. So I grabbed the vehicle, my vehicle in those days, and I drove up to the veterinarian. And I said, can you repair this? And he said, let me see. And he looked, he goes, yeah, I can fix that. And back then, he charged me $98. I didn't think it was that bad back then, $98. I was expecting like $300, $400 for that. So he stitched it up and gave the cat antibiotics and all that, and then it became my cat. Became my cat because it was kind of like one of those drifter cats, like a stray cat, top cat. And so I kept it, and I named it Big John Wallace. Named it after my favorite bass player, Big John Wallace. And that's what I called it. It was my cat, I call it what I want, right? I'm the one that rescued it. I'm the one who paid for the repairs. So I have a right to name it. And that's what I named it, Big John Wallace. That was the name of the cat, Big John Wallace. So what happened was, he finally healed. He had a nice scar under here. Finally healed, very strong cat, very friendly. And it wasn't an indoor cat, so it could leave and come as it wanted to. I didn't trap it into my house and say you can't go anywhere. I'd open up the door in the morning, cat would leave wherever it went, then it would come back, and then the next day the same thing would happen. So my cat had this So crows would come flying through the yard at a low rate, you know, a low height, and then my cat would run out of nowhere. He'd hide in the bushes or something. The crows would come in low, or they would be in the backyard just, you know, looking for insects, and my cat would come and grab them, you know, try and hunt them down. So one of them he injured, busted up the wing, and then a bunch of the other crows, they started circling and they attacked. They came down and my cat ran off. And I don't know how they did it, but somehow they were able, a bunch of them, they were able to lift the crow and put it up on the highest branch on the tree in my yard. And for the entire summer, they would be up there feeding it. Like they'd leave, they'd bring back food, and it was like in shifts. You'd have a group of them, you know, coming in the morning, then other ones later, and so, wow, it's like tons of them. Like they really overpopulated. That is incredible. Anyway, so they kept feeding him, and the entire summer he was there, or she was there. And every time they'd see my cat come into the backyard, the entire tree full of crows would start doing that noise. Rah, rah, rah. That noise. They do it better than me. Right? And they knew that that was the cat that injured their friend. It was like, they're very intelligent. You know, ravens and crows, very, very smart birds. Like they probably know what I'm doing, making a video right now. I'll tell you another story about a bird. This was back in, I want to say it was like 86 or 87. Go to my backyard and I see a pigeon. I see a pigeon, it's endless. Endless, it's like snowflakes. So anyway, I go back, there's a pigeon, and as I'm getting closer, usually, you know, you get close enough, they fly off, but this one was sitting there. And then when I got really close, it started like, you know, hopping away, and I noticed that it couldn't fly. And I went and I grabbed it and I looked at it, and its wing was broken. Couldn't use this one. This one was like flapping away. This one was just like stuck to it. So I said, you're not going to survive out here with the raccoons and the possums and all. You're not going to survive. So I took it with me, and I had one of those big containers, like milk crates. Wow, now it's crazy. I mean, I've never seen these many birds ever in one spot. So I put it in there. First I washed it, cleaned it nice, and, you know, made it all with Dawn. Crack of dawn as well. So I cleaned it, and then I put it in the cage, and every day I would feed it. Every day I'd give it water, I'd give it nice quality food there, had some good bird seeds. And after a couple of months of doing this, I took it up to my room. I started tossing it up to see if it would, you know, flap its wings and at least try and fly around the room. And it couldn't do it. So I kept it a little bit longer. And one day, I tossed it up and it flew, made like a couple of spins around my room. And I said, you are ready to leave. You're ready to, I felt like I was Master Po from Kung Fu telling Kwai Chang Caine, it's time to leave. And I don't think it was Master Po who said it. I think it was Master Khan. Grabbed the pebble, that was Master Khan. So I think he said, time for you to leave. And that's what I said to the pigeon. I said, time for you to leave. So I tied a ribbon, a red ribbon, around its foot. Up, and there's a cat right there. He just showed up. I missed the cat. Cat's looking for food. The food's up there flying. Even the cat's thinking, what's going on here? Anyway, so I tied the ribbon around the foot, and I remember that day we were going you know, out for the, it was a weekend. I remember we were going out, and I took the bird in my backyard, and with the ribbon, not ribbon, it was a little piece of yarn. I tossed it up in the air, and it flapped, 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 and it went up to the tallest branch on the tree that my mother had her clothesline on, and it just sat there looking at me, and I'm looking at, so eventually it left, and that was the last I saw of it. I thought I had the ribbon on there, that I would see the bird flying around with a ribbon or the yarn. And when I told my father, he goes, it's going to take it off with its beak. What do you think? He goes, what do you think that is? So I don't know where these birds are going, but flying that way, that's east. So anyway, Superman. I like Superman. I'm not a fan of these new movies they make now with superheroes. They're like too fantasy-ish for me. I like the old days where Superman lived in our reality and fought our criminals, you know, and did things that made sense to us as humans here on this planet. Now these superheroes are like from a different dimension, and I am not into that at all. You know, I watch them, but I struggle. I struggle because you know, I want the Superman stories to be like these stories here. Look at this. Not the coming back. You know, I mean, this stuff here is Superman on our planet in our time. I mean, this is obviously in the 40s and 50s because it's an old collection, and he had realistic strength for a superhero. Now it's ridiculous. Too much power. I enjoyed watching George Reeves as Superman, The Adventures of Superman. Even though that was beyond my time, I would go on channel 38 or something, you know, adjust it so that I could see. And I enjoyed the corniness of it. I enjoyed the, you know, the simple plots. Even back then they were simple, and everything about it. I used to sit there in my bed watching 2 episodes of The Adventures of Superman. I mean, in this one here, quiet, I'm trying to speak here. This one here, he actually fights a boxer. What kind of challenge is that to Superman, fighting a boxer? I don't know where it was, but I saw it, and I really enjoy these kinds. They should take a comic book like this and make a movie based on this. Because, you know, I mean, this is January 1940. January 1940. Yeah, I don't know which one, where the boxer one was, but I saw it the other day. I was flipping through here. Yeah. And how are you going to find it now? Maybe there's something in the back here that tells you now. There was nothing. And I like how Superman fought in the old days. He fought like a boxer. Get in there, and especially George Reeves. George Reeves was like fighting like a 1950s Rocky Marciano. You know, it was like bump, bump, bump. You know, left, right, left, and then boom. Superman boxing. And then the guys with the guns would always shoot here. Bullets sparking off of him. Never in the head. Never saw Superman go. You know, the other thing is he'd approach them as they're shooting and then take the gun out of their hand and then bend it like it was made out of cookie dough. Some guys would even throw the gun at him when they ran out of bullets. That was a thing in the old days. You run out of bullets, you throw the gun. Why are you throwing the gun? Put the gun in your pocket. You may find some bullets later on. Yeah, but I miss those movies, the realistic Supermans. And realistic I put in quotes, but this is like, what do you call it, like playtime for them. They never land in here, because if they do, the cats are going to eat them. Yeah, so it's starting to get a little dark. It's not dark yet, but it's getting there. Creepy time to go to the beach when there's no moon out, and I mean when the water's really crashing, you know, against the rocks and the shoreline. That's when you want to go. Get that thundering sound, or climbing a mountain in the darkness. That's another, you know, creepy situation. Anyway, I was gonna mention Kojak, played by Telly Savalas, and I was a fan. I like Telly Savalas, you know. I used to watch Kojak. One time many years ago, I was down the Cape Cod, not Cape Hatteras or Cape Fear. I was down the Cape, and we were at this beach, and my mother was talking to this older lady. Back then she was older. Now she's probably dust. But she was talking. She said to me, "Hey, you know Telly Savalas, Kojak?" I go, "Yeah, I know. He's on television right now as we speak." She goes, "Would you like to meet somebody who is really good friends with Telly Savalas?" And I said, "Sure." Felt like Mr. Rogers, take me by the hand and bring me to this person's place. So it was somebody she was related to. I don't know if it was her husband or living in her house. And anyway, so she brings me upstairs in this house down the Cape. And there's this old man, looked like he was barely 100. And everything in the room he was in was Telly Savalas and Kojak. Everything from his career. Memorabilia, pictures, signed, you know, posters, pictures, you name it. Little, you know, cars, things. Everything was in there that, you know, you would find in a museum for Telly Savalas. And he said, "Yeah, me and him are good friends," and, you know, he was telling me, and I go, "Wow, it's pretty cool." And so many years went by, like they usually do, and the internet was invented. Not by Al Gore, but it was invented, and maybe he had a hand in it. So I found his, I think it was his son, whoever Nick Savalas is to him. And this is way back. This is like in the 90s. And I wrote him an email, wrote him a letter in the email, and I told him the whole story, and I sent it to him. And he responded, and he said he kind of remembers somebody like that vaguely, that his father knew down there. And I said, well, now I know him too, or I knew him. I don't think he's around anymore. If he is, he's broken the world record. I love that show. I used to watch that and Beretta, Robert Blake. I never realized that Robert Blake was like 4 feet tall. Never realized that. You know, I thought he was like, I don't know, at least 5'10". Right? Had that bird, Freddie. So I used to watch that. But by today's standards, those are all G-rated shows. You know, and the acting is different from today. So that's it for now. See, Telly Savalas, this is the car he drove. And the Rockford Files. I used to love the Rockford Files, man. I mean, that show was, I had a bunch of shows that were my favorite back then. I know it's like you can only have one favorite, but my favorites. And the Rockford Files, I love the whole theme song, the answering machine there. His father lived in a Winnebago, and there's James Rockford, investigator, private eye there, drove a Camaro, I think, or something like that, brown Camaro. Love that show. Yeah, I used to watch that one. Like I said, Kojak, Beretta, Starsky and Hutch. Yeah, what else? Starsky and Hutch. Guy just died recently there, the blonde guy. Was that Hutch? Is that his name? Starsky. kind of name is Starsky. I know, is that like a last name or something? And usually they put them in alphabetical order, but in this show it's Starsky and Hutch, not Hutch and Starsky. And that's kind of hard to say. Husky and starch. But Starsky and Hutch. Hutch and Starsky is hard. Lennon McCartney. When McCartney wanted to do McCartney-Lennon, if he had, written most of the song, and Yoko Ono said, no, we're not doing that. We're not changing the rules right now, because they re-edited, they remastered the songs, and McCartney, he said, well, can we put McCartney-Lennon where I was the dominant writer? Like, maybe I wrote the whole thing. And she said, no. She goes, we're keeping it Lennon-McCartney the way it was, the way you guys agreed to back originally, because they agreed that no matter what, could have been that McCartney wrote the entire thing, it would still say Lennon-McCartney, and if Lennon wrote the entire thing, it would still say Lennon-McCartney. So they kept it that way. And I don't know, a lot of bands now, it will say, written by, and it'll say who it is, even if it's a band. It'll say, like Mick Jagger wrote it, or Jagger Richards. It doesn't say Jagger Richards if Mick Jagger was not involved. They don't say put him on that anyway. Give him the credit. So, yeah, it's different now. But that's the agreement they had, that no matter what, they both got credit. Because Eleanor Rigby and things. There are certain songs, they did the AI thing on the Beatles songs, and the AI figured out which parts Lennon wrote and which parts McCartney wrote. And it was accurate. All right. That's it for now. I may be back later. Maybe not.